I never imagined my life could change in a single moment. One ordinary Tuesday morning, I sat at our kitchen table, sipping my coffee, scrolling through the bills and bank statements, and trying to plan for the upcoming week. That's when I noticed something that made my heart stop. The college fund. Gone. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me. My daughter's college fund, carefully saved for years, every penny set aside to ensure that my twins could have the education of their dreams, was completely empty. The number on the screen made no sense. It was as if someone had taken it all in one silent sweep. My fingers shook as I refreshed the page, convinced it must be a mistake. But it wasn't. The account was drained. I heard soft footsteps behind me and turned. My daughters, Lily and Ava, both 17, were standing in the doorway, arms crossed, their expressions unreadable. They were twins, yet completely different in personality. Lily, the older by 3 minutes, had always been bold and assertive. Ava, more thoughtful and patient, often observed situations quietly before acting. They had always been my little partners, my best friends, and my pride. "Mom," Lily said calmly, "you've seen the balance, haven't you?" I nodded, unable to speak. My throat felt tight. I wanted to scream, to cry, to demand answers, but I couldn't. The words just wouldn't come out. Ava stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "We know what happened," she said softly, almost too softly. I looked from one twin to the other, confusion swirling in my mind. You know?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Yes, Mom," Lily replied. "We know he took it." I felt my knees weaken. The man I had trusted, the father of my children, the man I had loved for over 15 years, he had taken everything we had saved for our daughter's future. My mind flashed back to the small, almost insignificant signs I had ignored over the past year. The late-night business calls, the sudden trips that seemed unnecessary, the extra withdrawals I hadn't questioned because I trusted him. I had trusted him too much. The twins didn't say anything else, but their quiet confidence made my heart pound. It was strange. I was devastated, crushed to my core. Yet there was a glimmer of something I couldn't understand. They weren't panicking. They weren't crying. They were calm, almost pleased. I sank into the chair, covering my face with my hands. Why would he do this?" I whispered. My voice cracked, carrying the weight of betrayal and fear. Lily sat down opposite me, her eyes steady. "Mom, we've been watching him for a while," she said. "We knew he was planning something. We just didn't know how far he would go." I looked up at her, feeling a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. "Watching him? What do you mean?" Ava spoke then, her voice soft but firm. "We noticed the small things. The withdrawals he said were for bills, but never were. The trips he said were for work. And the new phone he always keeps hidden." I wanted to scream at them for keeping secrets from me, but at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. My daughters weren't just smart. They were paying attention. They weren't helpless like I had felt. Somehow, even in the middle of this disaster, they had already started to protect us. I couldn't help but think back to the early days of our marriage. My husband, Andrew, had always seemed perfect. Charming, attentive, and clever. He had a way of making everyone around him feel important. He had won me over quickly, and I had believed that he was my partner in every sense of the word. Together, we had built a life, a house, a family, and a dream for our daughter's future. And now, all of it had been stripped away in one ruthless act. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but the twins didn't panic. Instead, they shared a look, subtle but full of meaning. I realized they had a plan. A part of me wanted to shout at them to tell me everything, but another part of me wanted to trust them. Somehow, even in the face of betrayal, they had hope. "Mom," Lily said, breaking the silence. "Don't worry, we'll handle it." I laughed bitterly. shaking my head. Handle it? How? He's gone. He left this morning with her. I don't even know where. Ava's eyes narrowed, a spark of determination shining through. We've been preparing for this. You just didn't see it. I leaned back, my mind racing. Preparing? What could two 17-year-old girls possibly do against a man who had stolen tens of thousands of dollars and vanished with his mistress? And yet, as I looked at their faces, the quiet confidence, the sharp intelligence, the fierce protectiveness, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't exaggerating. For the next hour, we sat in silence. I went through the account statements again and again, trying to find a mistake, a clue, anything that could explain what had happened. But every number matched. Every transaction was real. The money was gone. And Andrew was gone too, leaving nothing but a trail of deception and betrayal. I thought about calling him, demanding answers, confronting him. But I knew it would be useless. He had planned this carefully. He was always 3 steps ahead, and I had been blind. I felt a wave of anger so strong it made my hands tremble. Not just at him, but at myself, for trusting him so completely, for believing in the life he had promised, for thinking that love alone could protect us. The twins, sensing my turmoil, took matters into their own hands. Lily pulled out a notebook from her backpack, filled with carefully written notes and observations. "We've tracked everything," she said. "The withdrawals, the hidden accounts, even the emails he thought you'd never see. We know exactly what he did." I stared at her, amazed. My daughters, who had seemed like children only moments ago, were now strategists, detectives, and protectors. They had anticipated the worst, prepared for it, and were ready to act. My heart swelled with pride, even as it ached with grief. Ava spoke next, her voice calm but firm. "Mom, we've also prepared a plan for the money. We can recover it, or at least make sure he can't use it." I shook my head in disbelief. "Recover it? How? He's gone, and I have no idea where he even is." Lily leaned forward, her eyes shining. "It doesn't matter where he is. We have everything we need. He won't know what hit him." I wanted to ask them for details, to understand their plan, but I realized it wasn't the right time. They were careful, calculating, and I had learned not to interfere when they were in control. I could feel the strength radiating from them. A quiet power that was both terrifying and comforting. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, I allowed myself to breathe. Maybe we could survive this. Maybe we could fight back. Maybe Andrew had underestimated the strength of our family. As I sat there, staring at the empty account balance, I made a silent vow. I would not let him destroy us. I would not let him take away our future. And with my daughters by my side, I knew we would find a way to turn this disaster into a victory. We spent the rest of the morning discussing small, practical steps, what needed to be documented, who we could talk to, and how to ensure that Andrew and his mistress couldn't manipulate the situation further. It was the first time I had felt in control since the betrayal. The twins were methodical, logical, and fearless. Their confidence began to seep into me, replacing the despair that had threatened to overwhelm me. By midday, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Grief for what we had lost, anger at the betrayal, pride in my daughters, and a flicker of hope that we could reclaim what was ours. It was a heavy, complicated feeling, but I welcomed it. It meant I was still alive, still capable of fighting, still capable of loving and protecting my family. That evening, as we sat together in the living room, the twins shared more details about what they had discovered. How Andrew had secretly moved funds to accounts he thought were hidden, how he had created fake documents to cover his tracks, and how he believed no one would ever find out. I listened, amazed at their intelligence and courage. They were not just my daughters. They were my allies, my protectors, and my inspiration. I realized that even in the face of betrayal and loss, family could be stronger than any deceit. By the time the sun set, I felt a cautious optimism. We had been hit hard, but we were not broken. The path ahead would not be easy, but I knew one thing for certain. Andrew had made a grave mistake. He had underestimated the cleverness, determination, and resilience of my daughters, and of the family he had tried to destroy. And though I didn't yet know how we would reclaim what was ours, I knew one thing: we would fight. Together. The day after I discovered the empty college fund, the house felt heavier, almost suffocating. Sunlight streamed through the windows, but it did nothing to lift the weight pressing on my chest. Every corner seemed to whisper reminders of what Andrew had taken from us. Not just the money, but trust, security, and peace of mind. Yet, in the middle of this storm, my daughters were calm. Lily and Ava moved through the house with quiet determination, their eyes sharp, always observing. I couldn't help but watch them in amazement. They were so young, yet they carried themselves with the seriousness of seasoned detectives. That morning, Lily sat at the dining table, notebook open, pen in hand. She had already started tracing Andrew's transactions from the past year, looking for patterns, inconsistencies, anything that might reveal the full scope of his betrayal. Ava, sitting across from her, had a laptop open, quietly cross-referencing statements, online accounts, and emails. They worked silently, but their focus radiated a kind of energy I had never seen before. "I don't understand how he could do this," I muttered, trying to mask the shaking in my voice. "How could he take everything we worked for?" Ava didn't look up. "People like him always find a way," she said softly. "They think no one notices. They believe they're smarter than everyone else, but there's always a trail." Lily nodded. "Exactly. And he left a trail. He always does. He's careful, but he's sloppy in small ways, too confident in his own cleverness." I watched them as they worked. Their concentration, their quiet confidence. It was like watching a machine operate. They were scanning through emails, receipts, and bank statements. My heart ached for the betrayal, but at the same time, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe we weren't completely powerless. Over the next few days, I started noticing small, subtle things that I had missed before. Andrew had always been secretive, but now his patterns made more sense. The late-night work calls were often excuses to cover meetings with his mistress. His urgent trips were always timed around big withdrawals or transfers from our accounts. Even his casual comments about investments and unexpected expenses were part of a carefully woven story meant to distract us from his true intentions. The twins were meticulous. Lily created a chart, marking every withdrawal, transfer, and suspicious transaction. Ava cross-referenced it with emails, messages, and notes they had collected over months of subtle observation. They had been preparing for this moment long before I even realized there was a problem. One afternoon, as I poured coffee for all of us, I asked hesitantly, "How did you even know to start keeping track of these things?" Lily shrugged, her eyes not leaving the notebook. "It wasn't just one thing, Mom. It was all the little things. He never expected us to notice." Ava added, "We pay attention to details. That's all it takes." We noticed the patterns and started tracking them quietly. I realized then that my daughters had been quietly watching, learning, and preparing. I had underestimated them. They weren't children. They were strategists, keenly aware of everything happening around them. And now, they were ready to act. As the days went by, the twins dug deeper. They discovered that Andrew had moved some of the funds to accounts under different names, accounts I had never heard of. He had thought he was clever, that no one would ever find them. But Lily and Ava traced every step, piecing together the puzzle with patience and precision. "Mom," Lily said one evening, holding a printout of a bank statement. "Look at this. He thought he could hide the money here. But the transfers leave a trail. We can follow it." I looked at the document, my heart sinking and rising at the same time. Sinking because of the scale of his betrayal, rising because my daughters were proving that nothing could stay hidden from them. Ava leaned closer. And it's not just the money. He's made mistakes in emails and documents, small things that seem insignificant, but they tell us where he's been, who he's been talking to, and maybe even what he's planning next. It amazed me how methodical they were. Each piece of evidence, no matter how tiny, became a building block for their plan. They had taken the chaos Andrew created and turned it into a puzzle they could solve. Despite their calm, I could see the tension building in the household. Every knock on the door, every phone call, every unexpected sound made me jump. I knew Andrew could return at any time, and part of me feared what might happen if he did. But the twins seemed unfazed. They moved through the house with a quiet confidence that both comforted and frightened me. One evening, as we sat around the table, Lily spoke up. "Mom, we need to be smart. We can't just confront him blindly. We have to make sure every step is planned, every move calculated." Ava nodded. "We can gather evidence, secure the accounts, and make sure he can't touch a single penny. By the time he realizes what's happening, it will be too late." I listened to them, awestruck. They were fearless, they were clever, they were relentless, and they were completely devoted to protecting our family. Over the next few days, we began to notice changes in Andrew's behavior. He sent messages to check on accounts, but they were vague and full of assumptions. He called, leaving long voicemail messages, complaining about unexpected delays and urgent matters, but we never responded. He believed we were unaware, that we were vulnerable, and that he had succeeded. Meanwhile, the twins quietly documented everything. Every message, every transfer, every attempt to manipulate us was carefully recorded. They created a timeline, noting dates, amounts, and any suspicious patterns. They even began to predict what he might do next, based on his past behavior. I felt a mixture of pride and relief. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, I felt a sense of control. Andrew had taken our money, but he hadn't taken our family. He hadn't broken the bond between my daughters and me, and he had certainly underestimated their intelligence. One afternoon, as we reviewed the evidence together, I asked, "Do you think we can really stop him?" Lily looked at me, her eyes steady. "Mom, we're already stopping him. He doesn't know it yet, but he's trapped in his own mistakes. We just have to finish what we started." Ava added, "And we're not just protecting the money. We're protecting you, Mom. That's the most important thing." Tears welled up in my eyes. I realized then that the strength of our family wasn't in money or possessions. It was in trust, love, and cleverness. My daughters had turned despair into strategy, betrayal into opportunity, and fear into courage. Over the next few days, the twins continued their investigation. They discovered that Andrew had used fake identities to open some accounts, thinking he could cover his tracks. But each account left tiny traces, emails, phone numbers, even old passwords, that the twins skillfully pieced together. They also began reaching out to trusted adults, family friends, bank officials, and accountants, to discreetly confirm their findings. They were methodical, patient, and careful not to alert Andrew to their activities. Every step was deliberate, every move calculated. Meanwhile, I found myself observing them more closely. I had always known they were smart, but I hadn't realized just how resourceful and fearless they could be. They weren't just my children. They were my partners in reclaiming what was ours. One evening, as we sat together, Lily said, "Mom, we're close to figuring out where the money is and how to get it back. We just need a little more time." Ava added, "And we need to be ready for him to come back. He won't give up easily, but we will be ready." I nodded, feeling a sense of calm I hadn't felt since discovering the betrayal. For the first time, I believed that we could not only survive this, but come out stronger on the other side. My daughters had taken control, and I knew that, with them by my side, There was nothing Andrew could do to harm us again. As the days passed, the tension in the house began to shift. The fear and uncertainty that had dominated our lives were slowly replaced by determination and strategy. The twins had transformed our despair into action, our grief into purpose. And though Andrew remained out there, confident in his success, we had quietly, methodically, and cleverly begun reclaiming what was rightfully ours. In the quiet moments, I caught myself smiling at their cleverness, their bravery, and their unwavering dedication. They had taken a tragedy and turned it into an opportunity to show strength, intelligence, and courage beyond their years. I realized that, even in the darkest moments, hope and resilience could shine brighter than any betrayal. By the end of the week, we had compiled an almost complete map of Andrew's financial moves, traced accounts, identified fake identities, and gathered enough evidence to take decisive action. My daughters had turned what could have been a devastating loss into a calculated mission of justice and protection, and as I watched them work, I knew one thing with absolute certainty: Andrew had underestimated us. He had underestimated their intelligence, their courage, and their determination, and in doing so, he had already set the stage for his own downfall. The house was no longer just a place of grief. It was a command center, buzzing with quiet energy and strategic planning. My daughters led the way, and I followed, learning to trust in their judgment and their cleverness. And though the future was still uncertain, one thing was clear: we were ready. We were prepared. And Andrew would soon discover that the family he tried to destroy was stronger, smarter, and more resilient than he could have ever imagined. The next morning, our house felt different. The tension from the previous week had shifted into purpose. The air seemed sharper, filled with quiet determination. My daughters moved with precision, their eyes constantly scanning for details, their minds always calculating the next move. I couldn't help but follow them, amazed at their confidence and strategy. Lily had laid out everything on the dining table: bank statements, printed emails, notes, even a small notebook of passwords and hidden clues she had collected over the past few weeks. Ava had the laptop open, ready to cross-check everything, and together, they were unstoppable. "Mom," Lily said without looking up, "today we start acting, not recklessly, but carefully. Every step we take is to ensure he doesn't see it coming." I nodded, trying to steady my racing heart. I wanted to ask questions, to understand every detail, but I had learned by now that it was better to let them lead. They were the architects of this operation, and I was only an ally. They began by revisiting the bank accounts Andrew had used. Every transfer, every withdrawal, every suspicious payment was traced and analyzed. The twins discovered patterns that even I had overlooked. Some transfers were disguised as bills, others hidden behind minor investments or charity donations, but they had documented each one carefully. "Look here, Mom," Ava said, pointing at a series of transactions on the laptop. He thought no one would notice these small amounts, but they're connected to a larger account he uses as a backup. If we trace it correctly, we can locate where most of the stolen money is hiding. I stared at the screen, feeling a mixture of shock and admiration. My daughters were fearless, determined, and clever. They had turned what seemed like an impossible situation into a solvable puzzle. Lily and Ava divided the tasks between them. Lily focused on the documents, contracts, and statements that could reveal hidden accounts, while Ava used her tech skills to track emails, messages, and online activity. They moved seamlessly, communicating with subtle nods and glances. Their teamwork was impressive. By noon, they had mapped out almost every account Andrew had opened under fake names. They had discovered that he had been meticulous but predictable. He always left a trail, believing that no one would follow it. But the twins followed it, step by step, piece by piece, until the whole picture emerged. "Mom!" Lily said, leaning back in her chair. We know where most of the money is, and we know how to get it back without him knowing. I felt a surge of relief, but also anxiety. And the rest? I asked. What about the accounts we haven't traced yet? Ava smiled faintly. Those accounts are small compared to the main one, and we have backups, documents, emails, and passwords that will help us recover them too. We just need to stay patient and careful. I couldn't believe it. They had turned despair into a strategy. They had created a plan that was detailed, careful, and effective, and they were ready to act. The next step involved contacting a few trusted adults, family friends, bank officials, and accountants. The twins prepared everything meticulously, ensuring that no detail was left to chance. Every message, every call, every email was calculated to avoid alerting Andrew. Mom, Lily said, we have to make sure he doesn't know we're tracing him. If he realizes, he might move the money again. We have to be invisible. Ava added, and we have to be thorough. Every step must be documented. Every detail must be accounted for. I watched them, amazed at their discipline. They weren't acting out of fear or revenge. They were acting out of strategy and protection. They wanted to reclaim what was ours, but they also wanted to ensure that our family remained safe. Over the next few days, the twins worked tirelessly. They traced accounts, contacted professionals discreetly, and created a detailed map of Andrew's financial movements. Each discovery brought a mixture of satisfaction and tension. The satisfaction came from knowing that we were regaining control. The tension came from knowing that Andrew could return at any moment, unaware of the net closing around him. One afternoon, as we reviewed a set of bank statements, Lily spoke up. Mom, we need to be ready for him. He might try to act fast once he realizes we're onto him, but we have everything prepared. We can secure the money and prevent him from touching a single penny. Ava nodded. And we need to be smart. We can't confront him directly. We have to let the plan unfold carefully, step by step. I realized then that they were not just tracking him. They were thinking ahead, anticipating his moves, and preparing for every possibility. They were brilliant, and their focus was unwavering. That evening, as we sat together, I asked them quietly, "How did you even think of all this? How did you know where to start?" Lily smiled faintly. Mom, we noticed the patterns. He always makes mistakes, even small ones. That's where we begin. We follow the trail, and eventually it leads to the source. Ava added, and we're not doing it alone. We have the right people helping us discreetly. We just need to stay patient and careful. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. The twins worked like clockwork, uncovering hidden accounts, tracking emails, and preparing documents that would allow us to reclaim the stolen money. I felt a sense of hope I hadn't felt since discovering the betrayal. My daughters had taken control, and for the first time, I believed that we could emerge from this stronger than before. Meanwhile, Andrew remained oblivious. He continued his life with his mistress, confident that he had succeeded. He sent occasional messages, brimming with arrogance, assuming that we were powerless and unaware. But we were neither powerless nor unaware. We were ready. One afternoon, Ava looked up from her laptop and said, Mom, we're close. We just need to finalize a few things before we act. The plan is ready, and the money is within reach. Lily added, and we'll make sure he can't interfere. By the time he realizes what's happening, it will be too late for him to stop us. I felt a mixture of pride and relief. My daughters were not only intelligent and clever, they were brave, determined, and unwavering. They had taken a situation that could have destroyed our family and turned it into a carefully orchestrated plan of action. That evening, we gathered around the table and reviewed the entire operation. Every account, every document, every email was in place. Every step had been carefully planned and executed. My daughters had anticipated every possible move Andrew could make, and they had prepared countermeasures for each one. I realized then that we were no longer victims. We were strategists, planners, and protectors of our family's future. And Andrew had underestimated us completely. Over the next few days, the twins put the plan into motion. They contacted the necessary professionals, secured accounts, and began the process of reclaiming the stolen money. Every action was precise, calculated, and executed without alerting Andrew. As the plan unfolded, I watched my daughters in awe. Their intelligence, courage, and determination were extraordinary. They had taken a situation that could have led to despair and turned it into a carefully orchestrated mission of justice and protection. And through it all, I felt a growing sense of pride. My daughters were no longer just children. They were partners, strategists, and protectors. They had taken control, and I had learned to trust their judgment completely. By the end of the week, the first phase of the plan was complete. The stolen money had been traced, key accounts secured, and evidence gathered to prevent Andrew from reclaiming it. My daughters had turned a disaster into a victory, and our family was stronger for it. I realized then that Andrew's arrogance had been his greatest mistake. He had believed he could outsmart us, that we were helpless, but he had underestimated the intelligence, courage, and determination of my daughters. And in doing so, he had already set the stage for his own undoing. That night, as we sat together in the living room, I felt a sense of calm and determination. The betrayal had been painful, but it had also revealed the strength and resilience of my family. My daughters had taken the chaos and turned it into a carefully planned operation, and we were ready for whatever came next. The house, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now felt like a place of strategy and purpose. My daughters led the way, and I followed, learning to trust their judgment and their cleverness. Andrew had believed he had succeeded, but he had underestimated the most important thing: our family's intelligence, courage, and unwavering bond. And as I watched them work, I knew one thing with certainty. The plan was in motion, and Andrew would soon discover that he had made a grave mistake in underestimating us. It had been nearly a week since we traced most of Andrew's stolen money and put our plan into action. The house felt charged with energy, quiet yet purposeful. I moved through it, feeling safer than I had in days. Though a small part of me still dreaded what might happen if Andrew came back, the first sign of his return was subtle. The sound of the front gate clicking open made my heart leap into my throat. I froze, listening. There was no friendly chatter, no casual greeting, just the cold, deliberate sound of someone entering. My daughters exchanged a quick glance, calm but alert. "Mom," Lily whispered, "he's back." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "What do we do?" "Watch and listen," Ava replied. "We know what we're doing. Stay calm." I followed their instructions, hiding in the background, while the twins moved to subtly observe Andrew as he entered the house. I saw him immediately, the arrogance radiating from him like heat off the pavement. He looked confident, almost smug, carrying himself as if he had already won. He didn't notice me at first. He began rifling through papers on the counter, glancing at account balances on the computer screen, but his expression changed gradually, from smugness to confusion, then to shock. Lily stepped forward calmly, her notebook in hand. "Looking for something?" she asked casually. Andrew spun around, startled. "What? What are you doing here?" His voice wavered slightly, betraying the confidence he tried to project. Ava moved beside her sister, laptop open. "We're just checking on a few accounts," she said evenly. "You might want to sit down. It looks like you'll need to think carefully before you touch anything." I watched in awe as the twins confronted him without fear. Andrew, who had thought he could manipulate everyone, was clearly caught off guard. His eyes darted from Lily to Ava, then to me, as if realizing he had miscalculated entirely. What do you mean?" he stammered. Lily cut him off. "We mean exactly what we said. We traced the money, tracked the accounts, and secured everything. You can't move a single penny without us knowing." Andrew's face turned red, a mix of anger and disbelief. "That's impossible!" he shouted. "I moved the funds! They were under my control!" Ava's expression remained calm, almost gentle, but her voice carried steel. "You thought that, but we've been tracking every step you took. We anticipated your moves. You underestimated us." I felt a surge of pride as I watched them. My daughters had not only uncovered his deception, they had orchestrated a strategy to reclaim everything he had stolen. Andrew's arrogance had blinded him to the possibility that we could fight back. You don't understand!" he yelled, pacing the living room. "I planned everything! You can't—" "Stop," Lily said firmly. "You need to calm down. Everything you took is already traced and secured. You can scream, you can shout, but it won't change a thing. You've lost this game." Andrew's hands shook as he picked up a stack of papers, scanning them frantically. This isn't real. I can still fix this. I can get the money back." Ava shook her head slowly. "No, you can't. Every account, every transfer, every hidden document has been accounted for. The moment you try anything, we'll know. You have no control anymore." I stepped forward, my voice trembling with emotion. "Andrew, you thought you could take our future, our family's security, and get away with it. But you misjudged us. And most of all, you misjudged our daughters." His eyes flicked to me, full of anger and disbelief. You're all against me?" Lily and Ava exchanged a look, unspoken but powerful. Then Lily spoke. "We're not against you. We're against anyone who tries to destroy our family, and that includes you." Andrew's face darkened, a storm of fury and desperation overtaking him. He grabbed his phone, presumably to call someone, but Ava quickly reached over and disconnected it. "Not so fast," she said. "You won't be using that." He froze, staring at her, realizing that every tool he had relied on was now useless. The house, once filled with fear, was now a fortress, guarded by intelligence, patience, and strategy. I can't believe this," he muttered, pacing again. "I thought I was clever. I thought no one would notice." "You were clever," Lily said evenly. "But cleverness alone isn't enough. You underestimated the ones you thought were powerless. You underestimated your daughters, and that was your biggest mistake." Andrew's hands clenched into fists. "You don't know what you're doing. You're just kids. You can't—" "Kids?" Ava interrupted. "Maybe in age, but not in mind. We've planned, observed, and executed this carefully. You're the one who has been reckless, not us." For the first time, I saw Andrew's confidence falter completely. His body language changed, his arrogance replaced by fear, confusion, and frustration. He realized he had been outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and exposed. Lily took a step closer, her voice firm but calm. "Mom and us, we've done everything to secure what's ours. You can yell, threaten, or panic, but it won't help. You've lost control. The money is safe, and we've made sure it stays that way." Andrew's shoulders slumped slightly. He seemed smaller, diminished, as if the weight of his mistakes finally pressed down on him. He looked at us, his family, the ones he had tried to deceive, and for the first time, he seemed to understand that he had miscalculated completely. You can't be serious," he said finally, his voice quieter, almost defeated. "We are," Ava said softly. "And you should know, we did this not just for the money, but to protect Mom, to protect our family. You won't be able to manipulate or hurt us again." I felt a wave of relief and pride. The twins had taken control in a way that was fearless, careful, and precise. They had transformed fear into strategy, betrayal into empowerment. And Andrew had no choice but to witness it, powerless and exposed. For several minutes, Andrew stood silently, processing everything. Then he muttered, I can't believe it. I thought I could win." "You can't," Lily said firmly. "Not anymore. This family is stronger than your greed and your deception. You've lost. I stepped closer, placing a hand on my daughter's shoulders. Andrew, you made choices that hurt us, but we are still here. We are still strong, and you are no longer in control. Andrew's shoulders sagged further. He looked around the house, at the daughters he had underestimated, and at me, the mother he had tried to deceive. For the first time, he understood that he had misjudged his family entirely. You don't understand, he whispered, shaking his head. I understand perfectly, I said, my voice steady now. You thought you could take what was ours. But you forgot one thing. Family isn't just about money. It's about trust, love, and intelligence, and you've lost all three. He sank into a chair, silent for the first time since he entered. The house, once filled with tension and fear, was now calm. The twins had orchestrated everything perfectly. Every move Andrew had made to deceive us had been anticipated. Every hidden account had been traced. Every message had been recorded. I looked at my daughters, my heart swelling with pride. They had taken what could have been the darkest moment of our lives and turned it into a testament to courage, intelligence, and resilience. Andrew had tried to destroy us, but instead, he had revealed the strength of our family. And though the road ahead would still require patience and careful management, one thing was clear. Andrew had lost. We had reclaimed control, and our family was stronger than ever. Andrew sat in the living room, defeated and quiet, while the weight of his mistakes pressed down on him. I watched him closely, feeling a mixture of relief, anger, and satisfaction. My daughters, Lily and Ava, had orchestrated the reclaiming of our stolen money flawlessly. Every step had been planned and executed with precision, leaving Andrew powerless. It had taken days of careful work, tracing hidden accounts, documenting messages, and coordinating with trusted professionals. Every detail mattered, and my daughters had not missed a single one. They had recovered nearly every dollar he had taken, secured the remaining accounts, and ensured that he could never access the funds again. Lily leaned back in her chair, her notebook open, and calmly reviewed the final steps. "Mom," she said, "everything is now secure. The money is back where it belongs, and all the accounts he tried to hide are blocked. He won't be able to use a single penny without us knowing." Ava added, "We've also documented everything in case legal action becomes necessary. He can try to fight it, but all the evidence points to his deceit. He has no leverage." I felt a sense of overwhelming pride. These girls, my daughters, my little partners, had turned a moment of betrayal into an act of clever strategy and empowerment. I realized that the strength of our family didn't depend on money. It depended on intelligence, resilience, and trust. And we had all three in abundance. Andrew's eyes darted nervously between the three of us. He muttered under his breath, frustration and disbelief in every word. I can't believe this. I thought I'd outsmarted you all. You thought wrong," Lily said calmly. "You underestimated us. You underestimated your family, and that was your biggest mistake." Ava leaned forward. "You believed we were helpless, that we wouldn't notice. But we were paying attention. Every step you took, every lie you told, every move to cover your tracks. It's all documented." Andrew's face went pale. He opened his mouth, as if to argue, but no words came. He finally understood the truth. He had been completely outmaneuvered. All the confidence and arrogance he had carried with him were gone, replaced by the cold realization that his deception had failed. I stood, my voice steady but firm. "Andrew, you chose to betray us. You chose to take our daughter's future and our family's security. But we are still here. We are stronger than you imagined. You cannot hurt us anymore." He slumped further into the chair, silent. For the first time, he seemed small, humbled, and powerless. The room, once filled with tension and fear, now held a quiet sense of justice. The balance had shifted. The twins had carefully planned this moment, and it was perfect. They had recovered the stolen funds, ensured all accounts were secure, and documented every action Andrew had taken. Not only had they protected our family, but they had also taught him a lesson he would never forget. Never underestimate the ones you believe to be powerless. Lily closed her notebook and looked directly at Andrew. "We've done everything necessary to protect Mom and ourselves. You have no more control. It's time to accept that." Ava's gaze was unwavering. "And we want you to understand something clearly. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice and family. You chose your path, and now you must live with the consequences." Andrew's shoulders sagged, and he looked away. The fire in his eyes finally extinguished. He realized that the game he thought he controlled had ended. Every account he had hoped to hide, every dollar he had stolen, every plan he had made, it was all accounted for. He had no power left. I felt a mixture of relief and triumph. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also revealed the strength and intelligence of my daughters. They had taken control, protecting not only our finances, but also the trust, love, and security of our family. They had turned despair into action, fear into strategy, and betrayal into empowerment. "Mom," Lily said, turning to me with a small smile, "we handled it. You don't need to worry anymore." Ava nodded. "Everything is secure. We've done everything we can to make sure he can't hurt us again." I felt tears welling in my eyes. Pride, relief, and love overwhelmed me. My daughters, who had been my little girls only moments ago, were now strong, capable, and fearless. They had taken on a situation that could have destroyed us and turned it into a testament of intelligence, courage, and family unity. Andrew finally spoke, his voice low and defeated. I don't know what to say. I thought I could control everything, but you've outsmarted me completely." "You should have thought of that before betraying us," I said softly. "The choices you made were yours alone, but the family you tried to destroy is still here, stronger than ever." The room was silent for a moment. Andrew's defeat was complete. He had no power, no leverage, and no hope of reclaiming what he had lost. The stolen money was secure, our plans had succeeded, and our family bond had emerged stronger than ever. My daughters exchanged a satisfied glance. Their plan had worked flawlessly. Every account traced, every transaction documented, every hidden detail uncovered. They had accomplished what I had feared was impossible. And in doing so, they had restored not just our finances, but also our sense of security, trust, and empowerment. I stepped closer to them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "I don't know what I would have done without you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You two are amazing, brave, clever, and fearless. You've turned a terrible betrayal into a victory for our family." Lily smiled faintly. "We just wanted to make sure Mom and our future were safe. That's all that matters." Ava added, "And we couldn't have done it without each other. We worked together, stayed focused, and trusted our instincts." I nodded, feeling a sense of completion and peace. The house, once filled with tension, fear, and betrayal, was now a place of calm, confidence, and strength. We had reclaimed what was ours, and more importantly, we had proven that family could overcome even the deepest betrayal. Andrew sat silently, finally acknowledging the reality of his failure. He had underestimated the intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness of my daughters. And now, he had no choice but to accept the consequences of his actions. The stolen money was back. The accounts were secure. The evidence was documented. And Andrew had no power over us. We had achieved justice, not through anger or revenge, but through intelligence, planning, and unwavering determination. As I looked at my daughters, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. They had shown me the true meaning of strength. They had proven that even in the face of betrayal, courage and intelligence could prevail. And together, as a family, we had overcome the darkest moment of our lives. For the first time in days, I felt a deep sense of relief. The storm had passed. Our family was intact, our future secured, and our bond stronger than ever. My daughters had not only reclaimed what was ours, but had also taught an invaluable lesson: that strength, courage, and intelligence could overcome even the deepest betrayal. And as Andrew sat quietly, finally accepting his defeat, I knew that our family had emerged victorious. Not just financially, but emotionally and mentally as well. We had faced betrayal, danger, and manipulation, and we had won. Together. The house was calm now, filled with the quiet satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly. My daughters, once my little girls, had become my partners, my protectors, and my inspiration. And Andrew, who had tried to destroy us, was left powerless, witnessing the strength of the family he had underestimated. It was over. The money was safe. The betrayal had been answered. And our family, stronger than ever, could now look forward to the future with confidence, unity, and pride. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting revenge stories.